Wow, that one went live really fast. Maybe it is an improvement. Okay, today's show is on pets that assist us and how we can rely on their assistance to shape when and how we use our gifts. I know we've covered this several times before, but most people are asking me, how do you know? That is such a layered question. How do you know this pet is here to help me? Well, the short answer is all pets are here to help you in some degree. Um, to some degree, not a joke. Yeah, to some degree. Oh, the fairies brought my damn saline rinse back. You stupid pixies. Sorry. Um, been gone for a month, and it finally came back. Very irritated. I was searching for it for the last 3 days desperately because I wanted to rinse my sinuses out, and they put it right back where it was before. But it wasn't there because that's where I kept looking. If you know what I mean. It's one of those weeks. Anyway, they know I needed it today, so I guess they put it back when I wasn't looking last night. In any case, how do you know when a pet, once again, is here to help you? Now, all pets should, in theory, be here to help you in some form, but the ones that have the deepest connections are the most surprising when they come into your life. Now, I haven't had a chance to ask Diana if it's okay if I use her as an example, but I'm going to use her as an example because I have to. Please forgive me. Don't shoot me later. Diana didn't like cats. In fact, her description of cats was, oh, they're dirty, filthy. I don't know where this comes from. Filthy, horrible things. And yet her heart melted for this kitty cat that she brought in. And her dog, which had previously apparently killed several dogs, also loved the cat. And the kitten, I should say, and her husband. And it pines for her when she's away, sleeps on her pillow, and spends all this time cuddling up to her and making her feel centered and warm and fuzzy. And that's just the tip of the iceberg for many people. And it can be a jarring or very, very soothing thing. And it is an amazing situation because until you've had that bond with an animal like this, you don't know what to say. You don't know what to do. And I got to tell you that it's not like I can give you 30 years of experience with pets like that. None of the pets that I'd had before Looney were like that. But 7 years ago, this month, actually, 7 years ago this month, I rescued a little damaged kitten who climbed into my heart and I loved very, very dearly, and who bonded with me at a level that I've never felt before. He had breathing issues. I had breathing issues, not because he had breathing issues, but because we both had breathing issues. We shared a desire for warmth and affection. He would sit with me. He didn't mind if I stood up. He didn't complain. If I had to move around the house, he followed me. Though he was deaf, we communicated. I knew when he was hungry because he would send the images into my head of him being hungry and wanting to eat. And that one's a good one. That one's a good example of how when you're ready for the images, they just climb in. And when and it's as if it's not as if they're a child. It's actually deeper than a child thing. It's almost like here's another part of you didn't know existed outside of yourself. And it sits there in your heart, even though they're away from you. And it's an amazing thing. So it's incredible. Now, Zephora doesn't have many stories to give, but she's here to chime in when she's got input, and she's wise and sagacious and learned in many ways. So.
Well, I did
Sorry.
sort of have one pet like that. My dog, Crystal. I mean, she was, I don't know, but I don't know if that's because she was magical or if it's just because, yeah, she was just an extension of my soul, and it's a rare thing, but it's really great when it happens.
And I've been very lucky to get it twice in a lifetime. I don't know of anybody who gets it more than once. And
Wow.
so that when Looney passed on, and I was still seeing things through his eyes, even on the other side. And I thought, as long as I know I've got that connection, and then it disappeared. Oh, that crushed me around August. Then October comes around, and here's this 2-month-old kitten. And he's I've been asked like, well, do they grow bigger than normal? Like, I got no experience with it, but usually speaking, from what I've read about the original familiars that came into the lives of those who were gifted, usually speaking, they did grow bigger than normal. Now mine, not so much, because Looney was starved. All of his organs for digesting food were uh, drop kicked up into his chest. I think the only thing that was left in his abdomen was the his colon and his kidneys. You could literally he looked if you put your fingers around his midsection, there was nothing there. You could
Mm.
you could wrap your ring finger and thumb around his midsection because there was nothing
Mm.
to it.
Wow.
So he didn't grow very large, and he was also doing the Rapunzel thing where he ate hair in order to fill his stomach because he had nothing. When we first started giving him food, all that came out was reddish human hair because that's what he'd
Oh.
eaten. And
Yeah, Crystal was small too, but she was raised on immunosuppressants, so her growth was stunted artificially. So I don't know if she would have grown to be larger.
but it seems to me that the average, according to what's out there for uh, from information available, is they do grow normal than they should. And there's a lot of history of it going way back, including if you let's use a J.K. Rowling aphorism from her stories. There's a magical cat called a Kniezel that looks like a part wildcat, part cat. That's a protector of the of wizarding kind, similar to the Cruppy, but this is a Kniezel. It's a different kind of cat. And they're very majestic and long-eared. Look like somebody crossed a bobcat with a regular cat, but they're leaner. And that from what I'd read, is that there's the history of cats that were familiars to witches and wizards in Europe was that they grew abnormally large. Now, I don't know if that could have been because of crossbreeding with other cats in the area that could have uh, that could have affected their size. I'm no expert on the fauna of Europe. I do know that there are slightly above average size kitty cats that are not domesticated Asian cats in North Scotland. So I don't know if that hasn't if that may have been where the story comes from. But if you want to go quite literally with what they say, yeah, they do grow above average size. And just to give another example, my dog Falcor, he's a line-bred Samoyed, and line-bred Samoyeds are usually at the average or best weight for their breed, which would be 65 pounds for a male dog. I unfortunately got one that grew above average size. He's about 78 pounds, but he's not fat. This dog has no real midsection that's above average to speak of, and we feed him no grains, and he's just big. And the funny thing is, he thinks he's small. He's like, oh, I can do this sort of thing that the cats do. I can walk from the sofa onto your lap, can't I, Daddy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah, my Dobermans did that. My Dobermans thought they were tiny little lap chihuahuas.
So when he tries to pull it off, I'm like, no, put your paw down, put your paw down, put your paw down. And he's like, no, I'm going to walk over there. It's like, onto this recliner. This recliner does not fit two of us.
Yeah,
Reminds me
sure
of a
it does. Watch.
It reminds me of a line from Lady Hawk. Pretorius, there's not enough room in this hole for you and I. It says, there's more than enough room in here, Mouse, if you just stop thumping me in the liver. So that's I don't even know if anybody's actually. Does anybody even out there even remember Lady Hawk? That was a really cool fantasy film from the 1980s. Rutger
I
Hauer, Michelle Pfeiffer.
I remember the title, but I see my memory is horrible, so I forget like every movie I've watched and every book I've read for the most part. And so like if I went to read Watership Down again, I'd be like, wow, this is totally new, even though I read it in seventh grade, like that kind of thing. So I recognize the title and I'm pretty sure I saw it, but I have no memory of what it is.
Mm. Well, it was one of the better ones from the 1980s. That was a low budget but well done fantasy film, sort of like the Beastmaster series. Really loved that series. Mark Singer was amazing. I
I'm
mean, the guy
Googling
could do
it.
everything.
See if I can
The
jog my memory.
the Beastmaster?
No, Lady Hawk.
Oh, Lady Hawk. Uh, let's see. The story is well, Rutger Hauer and Michelle Pfeiffer. Oh, he's a knight and she was a lady, and they loved each other, but they had to keep it secret and hidden. And an archbishop who coveted the love of of Michelle Pfeiffer's character named Isabeau uh, made a deal with the devil to keep them apart, so that by day she's a hawk and by night he's a wolf. They can only see each other at dawn for a fleeting moment as they transform at dawn and dusk.
Oh, okay. I think I have seen this one, but it was a long time ago.
And Matthew Broderick played Philippe the Mouse, who is a thief who
Hmm.
he was the one who helped them figure out how to break the curse, which required them being together uh, during a complete eclipse of the sun, and so that the archbishop could see them together. Once he did, it would break the curse. If they killed him, it would never break the curse, and they would live that way forever. So that was Philippe was the one who helped to maintain their hope, so that he could uh, could get the curse broken. It was a really good story.
I have seen it long time ago.
Okay. So one of the things that I noticed when Looney was first when he first came into my life was that there was a there was a sense of greater safety, and I could address things that I hadn't addressed when I was younger, such as my vision was failing, and I was scared about it because I was also felt like I was losing my gifts, because I was losing my ability to see, and it was getting much more difficult to be able to do anything that wasn't sitting behind a TV and piggybacking my gifts on other psychics so that I could see what they were seeing. I figured that was going to be my future, because nobody wanted to tell me what was going on. And I went to a couple of doctors, and the doctors were saying, "There's nothing wrong with your eyes. You're not on Obamacare, are you?" I'm not even joking with you on that one. That was the 1-2 punch I was given.
That's
Like, you're not
weird.
on. Hey, you're not on Obama. Who cares if I'm on Obamacare? Are your bills being paid? It's like, really?
Obamacare, but Obamacare is private insurance. So, that's Kaiser, that's Blue Cross. But why is that a relevant question?
I have no idea. I even asked her, I said, what is that supposed to mean? Why are you asking me that question? I said, "Oh, well, let me tell you." I said, no, stop. Here comes the rhetoric. We're not in a medical office for punditry. How does that have any relevance on my vision?
Yeah,
Uh,
really.
so no, I'm leaving here, and I'm gonna file a complaint. Not that it's gonna actually do anything, because you're gonna figure out some way to be able to say there's something wrong with my brain, because even though you're an ophthalmologist.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
So, so I go to another doctor, and the two doctors are flabbergasted. Like, you mean the last doctor said nothing's wrong with your eyes? Yeah. Didn't you get the records? Yes, we just can't believe what we're seeing here. And so,
It is weird, but I've seen weird too. I because I have a neurological condition, so there was a point where like my doctor had moved to another state, so I had to find another doctor. But finding another neurologist to work with me was nearly impossible. They all were just like, "Nope, you're just crazy," and I'm like, "But I'm not." And they all wanted to send me to psychological evaluation. So finally with one of them, I'm like, fine, if you refill my prescription, I will go to psychological testing. So, I go down into the basement where they had the psych department, and I'm waiting outside the door. It was like a week of testing. Like, it was intensive testing. And I'm waiting outside the door on my first day, and from inside I hear, "Oh, not another one from neurology. God." I'm like, "Yep." It's like they don't want to do their job. They just want to send everyone to psychological testing because they don't want to do their job. It's really sad.
so a prime example from fantasy, of course, I'm going to go back to referring to Mark Singer as the Beastmaster. Was one of the sayings he had was about these different animals that were close to him is, uh, they follow me. I know their thoughts, they know mine. I see through their eyes, they see through mine, which is incredibly prescient for this situation. When Looney when I started bonding with him deeply, and I realized that he was really close to me for that reason, I would close my eyes and just focus on him. And it's not exactly the same as seeing through his eyes, but while I was petting him one day, on my lap, on my couch, not my couch, sorry, on my recliner, I'm sitting there, and he looked. I've got my eyes closed, and I saw him look up at me. Then he stood up, and then walked away. But I was being carried along behind him as he was walking away. He walked over to the. Uh, it's really hard to explain, but there's a passage that goes from the living room. It's not exactly a doorway, and he went and looked down, and that passage, and I was basically looking over his shoulder as if I was following behind him, like I was astrally projecting and following, but safer, like I was just basically attached to his tail like a balloon, and I got to follow. And then he went over to the door that leads into Adrian's room, and started thinking at Adrian, and Adrian, of course, because she's sensitive, picks it up and says, "Oh, hi, Looney, is it tuna time?" And she makes the sign for tuna time, which oh, I can't even show this on the thing. I'll maybe one day I'll show the different sign language things that we made for Looney, but which is basically pointing a T to the corner of your mouth and then twisting it, and he knows that meant tuna, and so he followed her through her bathroom, into the hallway, into the laundry room, and then into the kitchen. And I opened my eyes and got up, and that's where they were. And I thought, oh, that's really very cool. That was the very first time, and that was when he was 2 years old. The very first time we ever did that. And I realized that you can go along for a ride with them like that because you're one thing, you're one being, not because you've decided to graft yourself onto them, but because there's simply this sympathetic warmth that you are together, and there's a sense of peace when you're together or you're doing that is like very few things I can describe, almost like deep meditation or being by a waterfall or listening to the rainfall.
That's really cool.
And
Diana,
sorry, go
Diana
ahead.
had, well, Diana had a comment. She said, her husband will play really rough with their cat, and the cat will bite him really hard. But her husband always tries to get him to attack her hand, and he won't, or he does it very soft. And that just reminded me of how cats and dogs have familial relationships with people. And so if they recognize you as a certain member of the family group, they'll behave differently towards you than other people. Like when I was raising puppies, they would identify one of us as like the parent, and the rest of the people raising the puppies were the siblings. And so one way you discipline puppies is you flip them over on their back and just hold them there, just gently. And you just stare them in the eye until they submit. And when the alpha parent person does it, the puppies will scream bloody murder like you're murdering them, and horribly, because they're just like, oh God, help, help, I'm being disciplined. But when a sibling person does it, the puppies are just like, oh boy, we're playing, we're wrestling, ha ha ha, and it doesn't work. So and maybe it's something like that where the cat recognizes him as maybe like a sibling where they're kind of roughhousing, but then recognizes Diana as like the alpha parent person, and is like, oh no, I'm gonna get in trouble if I do that.
Well,
So,
actually, with cats, they don't have a hierarchy. Like they'll attack a mother to play with them, which will get the mother or the father to smack them and tell them to back off. But
well, I don't know. I mean, my cat does the same thing with me. I mean, he knows that I'm the mom, and he behaves very differently with me than he does with our son. And, he'll get really rough with our son, but not with me.
okay, couldn't that mean then that that's a familiar type kitty?
Well, I mean, it could be that too, but I mean, pets do have that familial hierarchy. Cats
Mhm.
have it too.
And there's a there was a an episode of Kung Fu from the original Kung Fu series where uh, Kane had to walk through a pit of snakes in order to prove that he was telling the truth. And one of the old lessons that his Shifu had given him was that uh, if you are one with all that lives and exists, it will a snake will not strike you because why would it bite itself? And so you see him walking through the through while focusing on being one with the universe. And it's one of the things that I realized is it's a good show, but it also had a couple of really good, um, very basic rules of the metaphysical. And in some cases, it's like why would an animal attack you if you're one with it? And I have a lot of examples I've seen from outside and from inside. Like for instance, my eldest son Trevor, he loves dogs and horses and things like that. And I've watched him uh, even as a 2 year old run up to these dogs and strange animals and just he's even ones that are normally antisocial and they will turn around and start showering him with affection just immediately because his heart is so wide open. The same thing with a pony that we used to that he used to ride at the Renaissance Fair,
Mhm.
named Champion. This horse, this little pony, loved him so much that when he saw him coming, he would stop the entire turns, the whole ride, just until
Mhm.
he was on his back.
That's cute.
So, and this is one of those examples I can give. I mean, you can go with science, or you can go with this, or there's something in between, or there's both. But I have seen enough examples of it, even in my own life. Like because I told him all about uh, my sensei had rescued this one draft horse that I named Carrot because guess what? He loved to eat more than anything else. I tried them on everything: apple, sugar cube, oats, horse cookies, nothing. No, it's always carrots or nothing. And that horse, I don't know how to ride, but I knew how to go with him places, if you know what I mean. I knew how to put the saddle on his back, and I would ask him, it's like, where do you feel like going? You feel like doing anything? Nope. Oh, if you just want to go over here, okay, we'll go that way. And I would get chastised for letting the horse take control, and I grabbed the reins and said, okay, look, they're complaining. Let's get out of their way. And we and I could gallop him down the trail, which I wasn't supposed to do. Like, you're not supposed to gallop down the trail. It's like, it's not much fun when you just trot. He's he's a big draft horse, and you don't have to worry about the saddle banging you in the hips because it's almost like being on a carousel when the horses with bigger hooves have a much better gait. And so being bonding with animals like that, it's a different experience than exerting your will.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I've had similar experiences like that, and you know, like just being able to recognize what an animal's thinking or feeling. I mean, even thinking. I've had mental conversations with certain animals, and it's a very rare thing. But um, yeah, I mean that's possible. But I think it's both. I think there's both, basic cognitive behavioral neuroscience. There's the science of it and how animals, species bond and interact and their whole social hierarchy, but there's also, you know, people who are just really in tune with animals and can communicate with them on a deeper level. Like, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how much I should tell about this story, but there was a dog I was working with, and I was tasked with collecting a sample from her to um, test her for parasites. And we knew that, if you feed them in the morning, then they'll eliminate and they'll do their thing, and then you can collect the sample and take it to the vet. And she wouldn't do it. But I knew she was also depressed. Like, she was one of those very needy dogs that just needed a lot of attention. And so I was like, hey, I will spend time with you. And then if I spend time with you, I'll make a deal with you. I'll spend time with you and pet you and love you. And then you give me the thing I need and we'll be good. And a guy walked by and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm making a deal with her because she's depressed. So I'm going to give her attention and then she's going to give me what I need. And he's like, that's crazy. She's not, how do you know she's depressed? And, and then, like, as he's walking away after I'd given her attention, I turned back and I was like, look, she did it. Like, she totally did the deal. Yeah, it was really funny.
Yeah. To give you another fun example, because unfortunately Joel's not here, so I have to speak on his behalf. He's probably sleeping in because he's dead tired. But
Yeah, he works at night.
his cat that just recently passed, Kiara, she he'd raised her by being really rough with her, and so she would actually attack his son, would jump on him, would bite him just because he was near. Same thing with everybody else in the house but him. And so he's like, well, be careful around Kiara. I'm like, be careful around Kiara. And I look at her, I go, should I be careful around you? And she looks at me like, huh? I said, should I be careful around you? Look, I tell you what, you don't hurt me, I'm not going to hurt you, okay? Because you're a beautiful puss puss. And I pet her the top of her head, and she puts her head back like, oh, yes, I am. And so I sit on his sofa, and I just gotten through having a 7-hour trip to get there with a bunch of stops in order to try and work with some of the stores along the way. And I'm just dead tired, and I fall asleep. And I wake up and she's on my lap. I'm like, oh, hi, Kiara. And Joel's like, it's just you, and starts throwing all of these insults at her. It's like, oh, we're jealous because she's not just paying only attention to you. And so I said, do you want to hold hands, Kiara? And I put my hand down and she puts her palm. I was like, yes. So now we'll hold
Aw.
hands while I sit here. And Joel's like, God, you little bitch. I said, don't be mad at Kiara. This is her true nature, right? You can't help this reality, man. It's like, I'll get your back later. So every time I ever visited, I'd fall asleep, and Zazu and Kiara would fall asleep right next to me, cuddled up to me or on my lap, and I'm like, on his sofa. And so it's a thing when there's animals that really want to be a part of that warmth, that whatever that comes off of you, or that they know that you're as likely to hurt them as you are to take out a mallet and slam it down on your own left hand.
Yeah, they can tell. I mean, they really can tell.
I'm still really pissed off about the fairies taking my saline nasal mist and then bringing it back like that after I don't need it anymore. That's not even funny.
I had something like that happen in high school. That happened to me with a planner. My weekly planner. It was just this little book, and I usually kept it on my desk on the second shelf. And one day it was gone, and I looked everywhere. I looked on that shelf about 10 times. I looked under the bed. I looked, all over the house. And then a week later, I look at that shelf and it's sitting right there. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like they take it because it's important to you, just to have a giggle, I think.
Yeah, sort of like Brent on the toilet with the I'm not getting up for nothing because I'm dropping
Yeah,
juice.
really.
I hope he
It's
doesn't
not.
get mad at me for sharing that story, because that's a good one. That's a really good one.
It's really funny.
It's akin to do you like the monster in Young Frankenstein, when the blind man lights his thumb on fire? It's like, do you freak out, or and run, or do you just blow out your thumb and go, okay, what's next? Right? It's like,
Yeah, really.
no, it's like, no, no, fire is good. Fire is good. Don't inhale until the tip glows. Wah! It's so funny. Where are you going? I was gonna make espresso. Uh, Gene Hackman. You see him do all these really serious roles, and yet comedy is in his soul. If you haven't seen him in the Birdcage, it was without him, it wouldn't have been even half as funny. Even though Nathan Lane and Robin Williams were in the show, just you have to have someone that good to make it
I
that
still
funny.
haven't seen that one. I really need to.
Oh my god. Okay. Um, Not gonna ruin it. I'm stopping right there.
Okay.
Okay, you gotta just the only thing I can do is make it bad from here because I'm gonna rob every moment if I say anything. So, all right. So back to the pets. Now, after Looney passed, and Buttons came into my life. Okay, he's younger than when I got Loon by about probably a month, and of course he's a dwarf lambkin. So that means he's not going to get big. So of course I can't verify would they get very large now. He's not going to get any bigger than he is currently. And he immediately starts doing loony behaviors, stuff that he used to do as loon. It's like he had a set of behaviors and they were falling away. Now, if I was teaching him to do it, I could understand because I was avoiding him and I was letting my eldest son, because my eldest son thought he was the cutest thing ever and wanted him to be his cat, did everything to let him, let him bond with Trevor. And yet he keeps on not bonding with Trevor. It's like, nope, nope. It's like, I know you for some reason, don't I? It's like, what? I know. Let me come over there. I want to know when you pet me, there's something different. I like that. And right down to sleeping where he used to sleep on Karen's legs, which drives her crazy. To waking me up and then meowing in my face and purring right there in my face like Looney used to, and getting on my lap and milk pawing and then falling asleep, or preferring my chair to any place else, sleeping on the back of the chair where I would tell Looney not to sleep because it's ripping. I'm going to have to reupholster this thing and it's going to be expensive. This will be the second time I've had to reupholster it. At the top of the cushion is ripping away, and I was like, you know what, you're not supposed to be there. And so I take him off the top, put him on the seat of the chair, and then he goes okay, and then jumps down and runs into the bedroom because it's time for sleep. And I'll find him on the bed. And he's got all the different rooms he could choose from, but he chooses to sleep there and in the same position as before, including pushing Yuki out of the way because Yuki likes to sleep up near Karen's face. And so, and I know that they assist not only in well-being, but in theory, if you read the old texts of what they can do, they're supposed to expand your senses, expand your understanding, and something about being with them is supposed to center you more or make you harder to affect negatively. And it's like protection just by having them in your arms and them telling you how much they love you, which is really a very endearing and sweet thing. It's heartbreaking in how if you've ever watched the Despicable Me, and the youngest girl is like, they were so cute and fluffy I could die type thing, that kind of emotion about the unicorn. Oh my gosh, I can't remember her name. I think the eldest one is Violet. I can't remember the youngest one. Anyway, that's the takeaway I get from that, is that they go into your sense of well-being and they take up space there, and almost like a furry kitty wrapped around your heart, protecting you, or a dog, or I guess in some cases there's wolves and bears and people who get close to these kinds of animals. Bobcats are another one I've seen. It's amazing how when they they bond with you. And to give you an example of my exposure with other animals, it's really strange. There was a gentleman who had a wolf, and it was one of those domesticated wolves, and he named it, no originality involved, Fenris. And yeah, I know, huh? Like, it's like nobody's ever done that before. So uh, the, I said, wow, that's a wolf. He says, are you afraid? I said, no, but he is. I said, how do you know? I said, because his heart's racing. So, and I said, I'm sorry, don't be scared. He says, if you buy one of my rings, I'll let you touch it. I said, it's all up to him whether I touch him or not.
Yeah, really.
He's scared. So I'll buy one of your rings because he's selling silver. This is back when
Hmm.
silver was affordable, by the way. And I said, no, you're kind of worried. I'm going to hurt you. Why are you worried? And he's laying down. He picks up his head and he looks at me, and then all of a sudden he lays down and closes his eyes, and I petted the side of his head, and he picks up his head and he looks me right in the eyes, and just there's this moment where you just get it's okay. He's not scared anymore.
That's good.
It's one of those very strange um, epiphany moments, I guess you'd say. When I was much younger, I was in the hills of the mountains around Tehachapi exploring because my parents were like, yeah, go out there and explore. There's nothing out there. Go out there and explore. Yeah, there's cougars out there. For everybody who knows, like your parents are going, yeah, just go and explore.
Hmm.
There's cougars. Cougars.
Maybe they were. Maybe they knew that. They were hoping that you'd find one.
Yeah, but knowing me, I would have brought it home. Look, Ma, look what I found. But I didn't find a cougar. I found a bear.
Oh
And I
wow.
was I thought something was following me, and I'd already given myself one hell of a scare by turning around and seeing a face in the trees. I thought, I'm gonna see one of those again. I'm ready for it, right? So I
Hmm.
bolted running, figuring I'm gonna outrace it a little bit, and I'm gonna run behind a tree. And I turned around, and there was this bear. And I'm like, ah! Screamed like a kid. And the bear and it turned and ran, and I ran as well. And the thing was, I was running away from the house because that was the only direction available to me, away from the cabin.
Hmm.
And so it ran basically towards the cabin. I ran away from the cabin, and then I realized I was running away from the cabin. And I figured if I circle up towards the high, there was a property one cabin higher than ours. I figured if I circle back over there, I can put the building between me and it, and I can look down and see if it's there, and then follow the two roads that lead back down to the house. I can get there. And I did that, and as I was coming back down, I saw the bear going up, but heading down a different road that led towards the was it northwest, where I was going southeast.
Hmm.
And it saw me, and I saw it, and it ran that way, and I ran the other. And that was so. And it turned out this was actually a bear that had gotten loose because it was one that was in commercials, better known as Marshmallow. If you ever
Oh.
look this up, the owner lived on the backside of the mountains there, and it had gotten out of its cage, and had gone wandering, which was not the first time. And it was pretty harmless, but I scared the crap out of it, and it scared the crap out of me. So
Well, I'm glad that's all that happened to you.
yeah,
Because usually, if you run from a bear, that's a bad thing.
it depends on the situation in which the bear finds itself. If it's a younger bear, it's screaming and you're screaming. They don't care.
Yeah.
If you encounter mama bear protecting baby bear, you're in trouble.
Hmm.
So, and all my experiences with bears was watching them on TV, seeing Gentle Ben, and that had no bearing on this because that bear looked really big to an 8-year-old Sean.
Yeah.
I barely came to its shoulder. I was like, ah.
I used to I used to work up in Yucaipa, and we'd get bears every weekend there at the dumpsters.
And so I have seen cougars from a distance, and even at the age of 12, when I first saw my first cougar, uh, I remember seeing it and thinking, well, that's weird. Why is it looking at me like it wants to play? And then as I'm staring at it, its ears, which were back, went up like it was conspicuous. Like, well, if you're gonna stare at me like that, I guess I won't come down there then. And I kept looking at it and thinking, it is an awful lot like a big cat, isn't it? It seems awfully close. And I just kept looking at it, wondering what it was planning on doing. And now this is ignorance for you, because I didn't know it would if it was going to charge or whatever. I'm 12. I don't have any experience with cougars. And it just kept looking at me like it was going, what? Why are you looking at me? What's there's something on my face? And it finally got up and it walked away. I'm like, oh man.
Big cats love it when you turn your back. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those videos of like someone who has like a lion and tiger refuge, but they'll go up to the cage and the cats will be totally fine, and as soon as he turns his back they're like stock 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 stock, like they're gonna get him.
Yeah.
So the cougar was probably waiting for you to turn your back so it could stalk you, and when you didn't it was like, oh god, this is no fun.
I'm just looking at the thing going, what are you doing? It's like, what? There's nothing down here. Why are you looking at me like that? And it just kept acting like it was like it was conspicuous. Like, you caught me, you caught me. And so years later, I know what it really wanted, but I wasn't going to get any closer because I didn't want it to run off, and I wasn't going to leave because I wanted to see what it was going to do. Doing just like as if I was staring at one of my cats sitting on the bed. It's like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
boring. I'm going to go now. Now, keep in mind, that's 150 pounds a cat. Okay.
Yeah, like,
If it was
you're no
male,
fun.
if it was a male cat, it's 150 pounds of very big puss. And I had no idea what it wanted, but it was nonplussed at my actions, and it wasn't threatened by me, but it was definitely bored. And my own natural inclinations were to just keep looking, because yeah, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I found that a lot of times these instincts and I'm not saying that I've got something in me that's going to make me immune to an animal attack, but I've never been attacked by an animal. Never been bit by a dog. Never been jumped by an animal. Never been attacked by a bird. Never, none of that stuff.
I
I
haven't either. Only by accident, but it wasn't intentional.
and so I think there's a level of, if you're connecting at the heart level with these animals, and that's what they really want. That's what they really
Hmm.
need. And in some cases, some more than others, like Diana's Moscato, right? Or my loon. There's something waiting, like Velcro, ready to come together and seal the bond, just waiting for that moment, that opportunity within. Now, I don't know if that means that there's only one or a few, or if there's a lot of them out there and just waiting for exposure, because I've also seen people who have found uh, who have found uh, many cats they can do that with. And I think in some cases they tend to hoard these animals because they want that warmth. And that's taking that's the Tribble effect, I think, where you have where Kirk would be saying too much of anything is not a good thing. Too much of anything, even love, is not a good thing. And so they keep on hoarding all these animals, and they end up to their detriment being in a very bad situation, because they long for that, because it is a very deep and abiding sensation, and chasing after it after it's gone, it can be almost drug like. And so I would highly warn against trying to do that kind of thing. I rescue animals because they come to me, not because, oh, look, there's another cat, bring them in the house. That doesn't happen. I I don't know what it is. I was told that it's a karmic debt that I'm paying off, not because I was cruel to animals. I asked, was I ever cruel? Because you will kill me if you tell me that I was damaging in a past life to other animals. And I was told, no, that's not exactly how it works. I may have just not been able to do something to save animals in the past, and not able to stop whatever was going on. And this is now I'm setting the scale correct for either myself or someone else I knew, or whatever. Karma has to be paid. And so I'm rescuing these animals, and they know to come to me,
Hmm.
because they know that there's an open door, and that I'm supposed to be the person at the end of the corridor that they need to meet.
Or they're being sent to you.
Exactly.
I mean, I've had that experience where I woke up and was like, today's the day we get the cat, because he was right across the street at a cat adoption event, and and I didn't know it, and then I found him. So yeah, that stuff happens. But I think hoarding anything is is a
Dangerous.
symptom. It's well, hoarding anything is it's a symptom of trauma, and it's one of those things where no matter how many things you get, it's never enough because you haven't fixed the original wound. And so, it's better to work on yourself first if that's what you're doing, and then try to connect with animals than the other way around. Because if you haven't fixed that original wound in yourself, no matter how many objects or animals or people you have in your life, it's never going to be right. It's never going to feel right.
And I've seen the situations these people put these animals into, and it is a horror. It's an
Mm-hmm.
absolute horror. Seeing blind cats and seeing them sick, and you know, losing animals, especially to some of the diseases that are completely preventable out there, is a true horror. To watch an animal die drowning in its own juices from feline infectious peritonitis,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that is just the worst.
Yeah.
It is the worst. But yay, they actually now have an ability to cure it.
Well, that's good.
I just saw it the other day because we lost a cat, a very dear cat to us, called Millie, who was a very adoring big floof cat that Karen used to love very, very much. And she passed. We had to have her put down because she was dying from peritonitis, and she was at that point where she couldn't breathe anymore. So it's like, nope, got to get her. She got to put her down. Got to put her down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh, she's past normal breathing. Oxygen's not going to help, and so. But now she shared this on Facebook, and I was so overjoyed because you know what, that disease really sucks. And
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's had to deal with it with a pet who they loved and watch them go like that, my heart goes out to them. But if you put cats in close proximity that have FIP, you're going to set them up to drown in their own juices, and it is the worst thing to watch as they slowly drown from the inside out. And all you'll do is make hordes of these animals die that way by sticking animals that are not meant to be in close proximity to one another, be stuck in close proximity to one another.
Yeah.
So that's why I will cover this as many times as possible in order to try and get the word out there, because I really love animals, and animals really love gifted folk. It's a thing. Like Joel would say, it's a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing.
It's a thing. We don't know why it's a thing. We can define it, but it is a beautiful thing, and it is a thing that requires respect more than anything else. It
Yeah,
is a
but
is a thing to be respected and appreciated.
I just as a disclaimer, please don't go out and try to do this with bears and wildcats.
I would have thought that would have been implicit. The whole I didn't
I
go
think we
looking for
need
the
to say
cougar.
it just as a legal disclaimer. Please don't go out and try to become one with bears and wildcats because that may end badly for you. Just stick to, kitties and puppy dogs and bunnies and turtles.
Yeah, because it's cool that I can give you an analogy using the Beastmaster, but I'm not saying go out there and get the tiger to see through your eyes. Okay,
Yeah, please
I
don't.
I, I am not even joking on that one, because I got to tell you, the kitty cat, the big puma, I wasn't seeing through its eyes. I was just looking at it. Okay, and the bear, when it ran, I wasn't seeing nothing through its eyes. Okay, so it's not where I wasn't doing that. I promise that wasn't happening. Stick to the smaller things, like ferrets. There we go, ferrets. That'll work.
Yeah, I saw a ferret on
Beastmaster
the
had
train the
ferrets.
other day.
Oh wait,
There was a girl on the train the other day who had a ferret in a little cage. She was going somewhere with a suitcase and bringing her ferret. And at first I thought it was a cat. And I'm looking at it at the corner of my eye and I'm like, that is a weird cat. Like, and then I looked at it. She goes, it's a ferret. I'm like, oh, okay. That was a funny looking cat.
oh, and rats too. They're so cute, and I
Oh
love
yeah,
I love
rats are
pet
like
rats.
little dogs. They're like little puppy dogs. Now I've worked with a lot of mice. Mice are not the same,
No,
but rats, yeah. My sister used to have pet rats, and they're like little dogs. They're great.
they're so sweet and they're extremely
They
clean. And as
are.
long as you give them someplace where they can go to the bathroom that they don't make a mess, you don't have to worry about messes. And
Yeah.
they're playful. And everybody thinks mice should be cute and rats should be ugly. It's exactly the opposite. That's the reason why they did what they did with Ratatouille. Okay.
Well, mice can be cute, but especially, oh my God, like 2, 3 week old mice. Oh my God, they're the cutest things ever. But they're not the same intellectually at all whatsoever. They're not smart and they eat each other and they hate people and they're just bleh. Yeah, they're not that great.
All the times I've ever had pet rats, their favorite place to be was either on my shoulder or underneath my shirt shoulder, you know, washing themselves out of people's sight and
Yeah.
tickling my neck, which is see, there's a lot of wonderful pets out there, and any of these will bond with you, even if you're just a normal person. But if you have a connection with them, especially one that's a familiar style connection, it is it's a means of expressing your inner abilities and just spending time with them and bonding with them and focusing on your third eye. Well, see, now this was the part I really wanted to get into on another video, but uh, bonding with an animal, petting them while expressing your third eye so that you feel them more completely
Hmm.
is it's almost like as you're petting them, what you're doing is putting yourself into a uh, I wouldn't say an altered state, but not exactly a meditative state so much as I wouldn't know exactly how to express it. You're not really meditating. You're just in the moment, and it's a very in the moment feeling.
But that is meditation. I mean, even if you're just meditation is even, I mean, meditation is being in the moment, but it's like even if you're just focusing on how the air feels going in
Mhm.
and out of your nose, that is meditation.
All right, but it's not the same kind of action as actually meditating or even a meditation in motion. And so it's an in the moment kind of feel, but at the same time it gives you feedback where you're actually
Yeah.
feeling so it's not exactly the same, but it can feel the same. And it's a great way for people who can't meditate to be able to get there to at least a state where you're within kissing cousin distance of doing the meditation. And I can't think of a better way for people who can't sit and maintain themselves because they got ADD to be able to do it, because an animal will get you 9/10 of the way there.
Yeah, and meditation doesn't have to be long either.
Yeah.
It can be very short. It can be a couple minutes long.
Yeah, I usually save my meditation for when I'm either I either I'm either in the bathtub and people can't interrupt me, and or if I have a moment, I actually should share some of these links. There's a guy who's put some really amazing meditative music and imagery on a page I just YouTube channel I just subscribed to, which it was great. It helped me get there within half a second instead of spending 60 seconds trying to get there. I didn't even have to close my eyes. It was just wow, really it spoke to me immediately, and I'll share it for anybody who wants it. But I loved it. I loved it instantly.
Did you
It,
see that? Did you see that video I sent you on the research about meditation and yoga lengthening telomeres?
yes,
That was really cool. I mean,
I want to know how that occurs, because I love that it does it, but I want to know what the mechanism is. Is it, what kind of meditation they were talking about? Was it Buddhist style where you maintain a joyous state, or whether it's a calm state? Either one, I want
I
to
could
know.
look
It's
up the
amazing,
paper. I could look up the papers and find out.
because that sounded just amazing. And
Yeah.
if it is the Buddhist one where you maintain a joyous state, maintaining a happy memory as the Buddha did, then that speaks to finding a memory you can hold on to try and express the earthly version of nirvana, which I thought, oh, now that I could see definitely lengthening somebody's life, especially people in a stressful world like we live in, where we're always constantly with our shoulders up around our ears. And then that, of course, I'm thinking, yeah, of course, that's going to lengthen the telomeres. But the calm one, I don't know. That seems so not as I. Anyway, you look it up because I really want to know.
Actually, just found one of the papers right now. Methods. I can't find their methods. Let's see. I'll have to read this and let you know later because it's going to take me a while to read it.
I imagine if it's the average verbosity of most of these studies, you have to sit there and go over it with a fine-tooth comb to find the data. Let's see. So Diana says, Moscato kind of was like, so I live here now, and somehow he just fit. And I love animals, but this cat I love in a completely different way than I love another pet. That is the thing. That's how Looney was for me. It's such a depth to it. And I don't want to. I know people say you have to learn before you can really love anything. You have to learn to love yourself. And I've always thought of self-love, and I can't get past this, as just pure vanity. I've never loved myself because I was always told horrible things about myself. But if Looney and Buttons are a part of me, then they are a beautiful part of me that I can definitely love because I can get past that crap that they stuck inside my head. Same thing for my kids. If they're the best part of me expressed in a way, then I can definitely love them and get past the horrible visions that my family put into my head. Being raised with the nickname the Ugly in Spanish from the time that you can remember. And I can remember back to when I was 10 months old. Okay.
That's really sad.
Yeah. El Feo, the Ugly. That's because I was approximately 3 weeks early, and they just said my aunt actually tried to say that about my oldest son when we went to go see him. So, oh yeah, he's ugly just like you are. I'm like, pardon me?
Oh my God.
I said, yeah, just like I said, oh, okay, we're going now. You will
limiting thoughts. God, that'll stop you from doing all kinds of things. We are all children of the universe, and we are all beautiful as we are. The end.
And so before she could damage my son, I'm like, nope, we're not coming back here again.
Thank goodness. Good for you.
Yeah, blame yourself for the fact that you're never going to see your great nephew ever again.
Yeah, really. Wow.
Because I didn't come in here and go, hey, you ugly old bitch, guess what? Here's my... No, I didn't say any of that stuff.
It's just mean.
I was never mean to any of them, but this base BS was something that they wanted to rain down on my family and myself specifically. And, you tell them, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry that we hurt your feelings. Like, are you? I don't think you are. I'm sorry. This negative that I have of myself. This was not put here by me. I'm sorry. And you're over 18. You can say, oh yeah, so I can just wave a magic wand and this all goes away. Are you serious? So no repercussions for any of your actions. I get it. You can't be responsible for anything you do. Get it. I got it. And so that's probably another reason why these animals are sent, because the universe says, I want you to heal. I want you to see that you're worthwhile, because this animal sees you as you are and they want to be a part of your life. And they think you're beautiful too. And though I may want to put my fist through every mirror that I walk past so that I don't have to look at myself, this animal sees me in a way that at the very least has not been altered by being told I'm ugly.
Mm-hmm. They don't know.
Yeah.
They think you're beautiful.
Which is part of the reason why I was mentioning about the people hoarding, because of the beautiful feeling you get from being around it. And it's not a drug. You can't hoard it. You can't bottle it. You can't own it. You can't control it. You can't do any of those things. So please, 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 for the love of this universe, don't try. Please just let it be organic. Please let it be organic. Diana found out how wonderful it is when it's organic, when it just comes together. There's this magical sensation, and it just washes over you like warm and cool water, and it's so special. You can't force it. You can't expect it. You can't.
Just be open to it, and it'll happen.
Open the door, and when it happens, write it down. Make sure that you note it and say, today was that day. Because for me, my day started, I woke up, I just had a nightmare about not being able to see. And it's one of those nightmares that I could not really control. And though I lucid dream and can control every dream to a large degree, unless my id is trying to tell me something that I don't want to look at, like it's been happening for the past couple of days. I had a drive to go out for a walk, like I'd been avoiding for nearly 2 months. And so I took the family for a walk in the middle of February, and we found Looney sitting out there. And Looney came to me because it was like two magnets coming together. And I took him in my arms and I said, "You want to come home with me?" To a deaf kitty. And all he did was look up at me with those two odd eyes. And that was, we bonded right there. And my wife said, "Oh, he's looking at you." And I'm like, "No, he's not. He's just lost." And I don't even remember the rest of the walk home. It was almost like the left side of my brain was constantly being stroked, like he was peering inside of my head and I was feeling him, and we were just like, hi. Like true love and deeper. And I brought him home, and my wife said, "What should we do?" I said, "Feed him." So what should we name him? I said, "I don't know." Wait, I do. He has odd eyes. And the kids were like, "No, we should name him this." I said, "No, we're going to name him Loon, after Prince Loon from The Cat Returns." And I didn't realize that that was the Japanese rendition of the cow money for the movie. The reason why they didn't make him white is because Yuki was already a white kitten, and so they wanted to make them look slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
And that was their version of the cow money from Thailand. It's kind of funny. I actually got it right on accident.
um, I'm scanning some of these papers on meditation, and it looks like they use Zen Buddhist mindfulness meditation.
Ah, so that's expansive ones rather than the ones that are for nirvana. So
Yeah,
I would love to find out if it would be more effective to use the nirvanist version where you hold on to the happy moments. And
maybe I don't
now,
know. Like, yeah, maybe someone's already done it. I've only looked at two papers, but they were fairly similar.
so for those people who don't understand the expansionist version of meditation is where you're opening your mind up and basically pushing out the limitations of your mind and feeling outwards into the universe, as opposed to with the nirvanist version is sort of when Harry Potter had to do, sorry, we're going to use another cultural meme. When Harry Potter had to cast his Patronus charm, in order for it to reach its fullest effect and be able to express itself and be the stag that jumps out, and when he does expecto patronum, he had to hold on to the happiest moment in his life, the happiest thought he ever had.
Hmm.
Now, I don't remember what the book said it was, but whatever it was, he had to find that one, and that was what he did. Now, the same thing's true in the Nirvanist version of meditation is you get yourself to a meditative state, and then you maintain yourself by holding on to that happiest moment sensation, and you keep it going. And you just focus on that and just keep and maintain the sensation. And if that one works better, hopefully somebody's tried that has done research on it out there. If not, it's another version of meditation for those who want to try something a little different, and that's the one that I usually employ. Is when I'm feeling down, I try to meditate and maintain the happiest moments. Only when I'm going to do work do I use the expansionist version, where I'm pushing back the limits and getting ready to zip out of my body. It only takes about 60 seconds to 5 minutes worth of meditation before I'm ready, unless it's we're in an emergency and then I'm called to combat, like happened a few weeks ago.
Yeah, these papers seem to think that it's lowering cortisol levels. So, regardless of the type of meditation, if you're just being in the moment and reducing your stress, and the same with yoga because it reduces stress. That's why it lengthens telomeres. Um, so it could just be that. Like it could be something more general physiologically. So whatever kind of meditation you use that works for you would probably work.
So whichever one suits, at the very least, it seems
Yeah.
like it's all meditation rather than the form. It's all the focus rather than the design. So it's what the
Hmm.
outcome is. The outcome is going to be the same. So
Which is good news for everyone because you can just kind of, pick the one that works for you.
okay, well, we've had our hour plus. So I'm going to say do the closeout anyway. Let's see. If you like the show, please like, comment, subscribe, share with others if you think that they'll be interested in this kind of thing. The next shows are going to be, let's see, pull up the list. We're going to be interviewing Zipporah's wife. That is going to be on the 13th, which is this Wednesday at 12 noon. And then next week, we're going to be on the 17th, Sunday, Segue Sunday, we're going to be doing number 18, where we've done the open forum before, but nobody showed up because Super Bowl. Didn't know you are all such football fans. We're going to be doing Ask a Psychic. So you're going to be able to come in and ask us any questions. And that's going to be a 1 hour show unless it goes a little bit late. So if you guys bring a lot of questions, hopefully you bring a lot of questions, it might last 2 hours. And then the Wednesday following, we're going to be doing Paranormals and Coffee with Deb Varner. Now, I met Deb Varner doing the Paranormal Portal radio show. She is a prognosticator and she sees visions of the future. She's very gifted. And she actually saw the future of the channel being exactly what we're dealing with right now, where people are coming in and I'm helping them with finding themselves more than anything. The problems that I'm solving are relatively minor, but people are making breakthroughs in the future of their own gifts a lot of times. Not on every occasion, but quite a few times so far. And so I wanted to have her on the show. She will not be telling people's futures. This is only going to be about talking about her past, her gifts, her life, the things that she learned. So it's only an interview. If you want to get her visions of the future for yourself, you can watch her on Paranormal Portal Radio when she's brought on. I don't know when the next time she's going to be on. It should be either end of this month or the beginning of next, whenever Brent schedules it. So look for that. Look for that on Paranormal Portal Radio. And until next time we meet, stay blessed. Thank you very much.